All right, welcome into Starting Nine on 5R Live. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick or at 5 Reasons Sports. This is a show I do every Tuesday and Wednesday at 9 o'clock on, again, the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. We are sponsored, as always, by our friends over at ubreakwheelfix.com. This is a wheel remanufacturing and repair company based right there in North Miami. Go say hello to Mark and the rest of our friends down there. They've been a sponsor with us almost since the beginning. They do great work there. They also can get your wheels custom done. So any kind of color, they can do it for you. You want to do the Dolphins colors. We'll be talking Dolphins today. You want to do the Heat colors. They can handle it for you at ubreakwheelfix.com. They do great work. And again, they're one of those businesses down here in South Florida that we like to support. Again, local. That's what we do here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. So check them out, You Break Wheel Fix. And again, mention 5 Reasons to them. I don't know why my finger is pointing there in the corner. Mention 5 Reasons to them, and you will get a discount on your overall order. So go to ubreakwheelfix.com. All right, today's guest is going to be Alfredo Arteaga from 3 Yards Per Carry. He'll join me here in about 13 minutes. I know that some of you want to get to some Heat conversation here, and we will do that as the weeks go on. We're about 3 weeks away from training camp. Make sure you check out our latest episode, 5 on the Floor. We got into the Victor Oladipo news. We're reporting that basically he could be ready earlier than we expected. Maybe as soon as December, he may be ready to get back on the court with the Heat, and how that changes the dynamic from the Heat. Some reporting from Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, and I chopped it up about that. So make sure you check it out. That's the first time I've actually used Chopped It Up on any platform, so I apologize for that. We're going to have Alfredo on here again at 9:15. Before he's here, though, I want to get into what's at stake for the Dolphins in week 1. And I know there is an easy answer, right? Tua. I mean, that's all anybody's talking about. And it's because of the ridiculous national media reaction to Tua for reasons that we don't really understand. We've dissected this on a number of episodes here. They've done it on 3 Yards Per Carry and elsewhere. Why is it that the national media has it in for Tua? They seem to have it in for Tua. They want to create controversy related to Tua, whereas they don't with other quarterbacks, and I don't really understand it. But here's the thing, to bring back an old radio phrase. This is not just about Tua for Chris Grier and the Dolphins. I mean, the quarterback, of course, is 50% of the equation, whatever you want to call it, in terms of being a competitive football team and a contending football team. We've seen that over the course of the past quarter century, particularly as the passing game has gotten more and more in vogue. But it's not just about the quarterback. I mean, Chris Grier didn't make just one move since he's taken over after kind of being in the background for a long time. He's made a lot of moves. He's accumulated a lot of draft picks. He's tried to rebuild the offensive line. He's changed the way that the Dolphins receivers look, although an old friend, Jakeem Grant, is going to be the starter. Don't freak out about that, but I did find it interesting. He's done a lot here, again, to change the personnel. This is an extraordinarily young team. It's been turned over completely. And so Tua is not the only one on the spot. Chris Grier's on the spot. Because the hardest thing to do in the NFL, and Jimmy Johnson used to talk about this, and he was never able to accomplish it with the Dolphins, is go from good to great. Good to great is the hardest jump. The Dolphins were good last year, unexpectedly good. 10-6 good, almost made the playoffs good. Top 5 in defense until the last game of the season good. They were good by any measure. They won close games. They didn't win a ton of blowouts, but they played well against top competition. They won 10 games. Well, top competition until the last. But going from good to great is difficult. Going from bad to good in the NFL is not that hard. There's inherent advantages. One of the funny things about the NFL is that all of their owners are like right-wing conservatives, right? Pretty much. But the league is a socialist enterprise. Revenue sharing, worst teams get the top picks. The idea is to bring the bottom up to the middle. So the Dolphins rode that wave, to their credit. A lot of teams don't. Some teams are stuck down there for a while, but not to the same degree as they are maybe in the NBA, where it seems like the same 10 teams are the top 10 teams in the lottery every year. So the Dolphins did what they had to do. Okay, but now what? Because we've seen in the past that the Dolphins can have a playoff season. They had a playoff season in 2008. They didn't follow it up, right? Chad Pennington got hurt the next year. Turned to Chad Henne, didn't work out. 2016, playoff season, right? But Tannehill got hurt during the year. Matt Moore took over. Jay Ajayi got hurt after that. 17 season, Gase was exposed. So doing it once, yeah, that's possible. Doing it twice, that's been a challenge. It kind of makes you appreciate the Dave Wannstedt years a little more, right? Even though the talent base was declining, the team was still competitive 3 straight years until Ricky ran off to a tent in Australia. So you can't evaluate this Dolphin season just based on Tua. He will be the guy who helps make a lot of things work. I don't know if he's the type of quarterback who can elevate other players yet, although it looked like it in the preseason because the offensive line is going to be bad. And he's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. But as Alec makes the point here, the offensive line is being judged, and not just because Austin Jackson may miss the opener. Austin Jackson didn't look great in the preseason. You're still shuffling guys back and forth on the line. I think they'll settle on something eventually. I think Eichenberg is going to be part of it. But for right now, there are questions on the offensive line. The receiver position, I love their depth. I love what they did. I love the types of players they brought in because they fit the modern NFL and they fit Tua. But there are still questions. We haven't seen Fuller, right? He's going to miss week 1. Devontae Parker gets hurt a lot. We know that. Preston Williams, they kept over maybe Kurt Merritt. They ended up putting on practice squad. But Preston Williams, we've seen trouble staying healthy. Albert Wilson coming off a major injury, although he looked great in camp. Jakeem Grant, got to catch the ball better. And Waddle's a rookie. So there are questions there too, even though I like their overall talent. And the tight end position, Gesicki's really good. They've got some depth there, although who knows if Adam Shane's ever going to, put himself in position to play. But there are questions on the overall offense in part too, because they made a decision, an unconventional decision, to go with dual offensive coordinators, neither of whom has any experience as an offensive coordinator. That's risky. It may be a better play than bringing back an offensive coordinator from the 80s, like Chan Gailey, but it's still a risky play. And then defensively, they made changes, right? Kyle Van Noy is gone. Most of the major players they brought in last season are gone. Ogba's the only one left, and they haven't signed him to the extension yet. The linebacker position, they bring in a guy who's supposed to basically boost their run defense, McKinney, and cut him loose. They're extraordinarily deep in the secondary, it appears, but some guys who haven't played here before. First-round pick from last year, and I can't pronounce his name. In Noah, I gave it a shot, guys. In Noah, who hasn't really shown he can play at this level yet. And they've invested a ton of money back there. So, yeah, you know what you're going to get from X, but they've invested a lot of high picks. The young safeties have to play well. And that has to be an elite unit. For all they've invested in that unit, it can't just be good. It's got to be top 3 in the league good for that defense to be really good. Because they don't have a ton of pass rushers. We don't think. But we'll see what Jalen Phillips is, even though he's 3rd on the depth chart. So there are questions around the roster. There's no question at kicker. It looks like they upgraded at punter. I think they'll be fine in the return game, whether it's Grant or Waddle or somebody else. But the point I'm making here is that we are so laser focused on Tua. And yes, that is what the national media is going to look to. And yes, he needs to improve. And yes, he's going to improve, okay? From last year. The circumstances are all in his favor this year, as opposed to last year where they were all against him. But it's not just him. If Brian Flores is the coach I believe him to be, they will be a better team this year. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have a better record. I have them at 10-7. The AFC is loaded. We talk about disparity between conferences, maybe in the NBA, what we've seen in the West for years and years and years, which I actually think finally this offseason started to turn a little bit. I actually think the East in the NBA, I've said this a lot and been wrong, but it looks like this time the depth exists in the East. It's going to be a competitive conference. The AFC, though, is clearly the better conference in the NFL. Clearly. You've got some old powers in there that are kind of getting themselves back together. Whether it's Pittsburgh, New England looks better this year. The Chargers look better this year. Baltimore is still there. Cleveland has to follow up, but there's a ton of talent on that roster. It's a really good conference. And that doesn't even get into Kansas City or Buffalo. And Chris is right. The NFC is the Packers, Russell Wilson, and Tom Brady. There's not much out there. The NFC East, the Giants, the Washington football team, no. I mean, you're counting on Daniel Jones, Ryan Fitzpatrick, a lot of holes on those rosters. The Giants offensive line, the Cowboys, I don't know. Okay. The NFC West, there's talent there for sure. The Cardinals, the Rams, we'll see what they are with Stafford. But the overall depth in the NFC is not good. You're relying on a rookie quarterback with the Bears. We'll see how that goes. The AFC is much stronger. In the NFC, the Dolphins are a playoff team. No question. They might be a top 4, top 5 playoff team. In the AFC, get to 10 wins and hope. So that's what I want to see from Flores this year is, can he make a difference in those tight games against AFC opponents that are going to determine the playoff picture? But what I want to see in terms of the Chris Grier regime is we've got to see significant improvement from some of these draft picks. You know, Christian Wilkins is a good player. Where you drafted him, can he become a great player? Austin Jackson, can he get back on the field and actually solidify the offensive line? I'm not seeing it. Can Noah be a core piece of this secondary going forward? I don't like to judge corners too quickly. People did that with Xavier Howard, right? X was a little bit of a disappointment early in his career. You know, I remember covering, this is how old I am, I remember covering Patrick Surtain as a rookie, not the son, the father. And there were some questions about Pat, his rookie year. He didn't start right away. He was playing behind Terrell Buckley. It takes corners a little bit of time. Sam Madison was an anomaly. And again, the game has changed now. You could do things in Sam's day as a corner you can't do now. So I'm not going to count anybody out, but I will say this, okay? The overall track record on the high picks doesn't look great. It looks like they've hit on some players in the lower rounds, like a Van Ginkel, okay, etc. But the question about those players that go in the mid to lower rounds is their upside capped? And that's why you do need to hit on some of those first rounders occasionally, because they're coming in typically with higher ceilings. And you want to see the coaching staff get that ceiling out of them. So that's a combination project between the front office and the coaching staff. But in summary, before we bring Alfredo on, I like the roster. I like the direction. I like the attitude that Flores instills. And I think people know I like the quarterback. Doesn't mean he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year, but I think they have an above average quarterback there. But this is going to be a challenging season. And it's going to test the process, to use a failed Philadelphia 76ers term, that Grier has put in place here. Because you can keep accumulating picks. That's great. You can keep robbing teams and winning every trade. But as our guy on the network, Jakari Givens, says, you got to hit on the players. You got to hit on the players. It's fine to keep churning. You got to hit on the players. We'll see how many of them he hit on. And it's not just about the quarterback. All right, we're going to bring Alfredo Arteaga on here in a second. Before we do, if you want to bet it, if you want to go and say, yes, I like the Dolphins over 9.5 wins. I don't like the Patriots over 9.5 wins. The place to go is betus.com. You can find them at betus_official. This is the week. We've been sort of slow playing this. This is the week to get on there. Use that code 5, F-I-V-E, 125% bonus. If you use the code 5, there it is, America's favorite sports book. Warren Sapp looks a little different than he used to. Use that code 5, F-I-V-E. Again, this is one that doesn't have a ton of rollovers, so you'll get your money relatively quickly. Again, when you're winning and you're using that bonus. And you can play the live stuff. You can play the futures. You can play the first week. You can play anything you want. It's at betus.com. We got an easy code there. I made the code easy for you. 5, F-I-V-E. It's the same code we have for a lot of the other things in the network, but go to betus_official. official, or go to betus.com, play the code. I was out this weekend. Everybody's placing bets on baseball games. That's how desperate they are at this point. So make sure that you're getting there for the start of the NFL season, which of course starts on Thursday. All right, now we're going to bring on our guest today from 3 yards per carry. You can find him at Alf_Artiaga on Twitter. He's Alfredo Artiaga. You can also subscribe to OnlyFins. That's right. OnlyFans may ban certain things someday. OnlyFins bans nothing. That's where you can get exclusive 3 yards per carry content that I'm not supposed to know about, so I don't even poke in there at any point. You can also get the great hat that Alfredo's wearing at 5reasonssports.com. All right, I'll go to you on this, Alfredo. Other than Tua, who on the roster is the most on the spot this season?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it has to be Austin Jackson. I wouldn't even put Noah Benogany in there. I heard you leading into this, and I think when you have an embarrassment of riches at the cornerback position, because Byron Jones, we know, is a good cornerback. Xavier Howard is all-world. But Nick Needham, who they found as a UDFA, has really paid off big dividends, to the point where he's made Noah Benogany kind of like an afterthought. And then they go out in free agency and sign a Justin Coleman, who's had a great camp. So nobody's really paying attention to Noah Benogany. I think that's a guy for next year. But Austin Jackson is squarely in the crosshairs of probably replacement if he is not above par this season.
All right, so let's go to week 1 there. So what if he doesn't play and he's in the COVID protocols? I feel, I mean, I have a certain view of the vaccination, but I feel like the jumping on Adam Shaheen yesterday was a little much. I mean, we don't really know how Austin Jackson ended up in the protocols. But yeah. I just think everybody wants to hate on Adam Shaheen now. So I get it, but still, but if he doesn't play in week 1, what is the solution there?
Well, they could go one of 3 ways, right? Greg Little, who's on the depth chart, could just start in his place at left tackle. He's a decent run blocker. Where he's failed so far as an NFL player is as a pass blocker. Or you could just move Jesse Davis over to left tackle, or you could just do the easy thing, which is they drafted a guy in the 2nd round who was a top-notch left tackle in college. Why not just play him there? And I was talking about Liam Eichenberg. So they have 3 options. I don't know which they'll go with. And judging Brian Flores, we won't know until probably Sunday.
I mean, does it make any difference that Tua is left-handed?
I don't think so. And I think you start worrying if they start taking injuries or if guys up the middle are bad. Mm-hmm. Because Michael Lombardi stated it, but we also stated it on our podcast before he did, that this coaching staff is looking at the offensive line a little bit differently than most teams. They're really concerned with what they have up the middle and trying to keep Tua clean up the middle because, quite frankly, he's a shorter quarterback. Yeah. Those guys, you don't want to get guys into their face because, it's physics. They can't see down the field. So they want to keep them clean up the middle so they might not, be panicking as much on the outside as they would if they took an injury inside.
What's interesting is during the draft, the position that people were most panicked about was running back, and I don't really hear that anymore. And not that I think anybody thinks that Myles Gaskin is going to lead the league in rushing, but it feels like there's a certain comfort with the level of competence between Gaskin and Ahmed. I don't know about beyond that. There's some depth questions there, but it feels like they're okay at that position, right?
Yeah, they don't have anything extraordinary. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Myles Gaskin is ready for or primed for a massive breakout season. But on the podcast last night, we talked about it. Like what would make us feel great about this team, and besides the obvious, which is the offensive line being quote unquote fixed, it would be having a difference maker at running back. There's nothing wrong with the running back group, but that's kind of the thing. They're just, they're just guys that do their job. They're not going to hurt you, but I don't think that they're going to necessarily help you beyond, do anything extraordinary besides, just their job. They're just going to get what's there and what's made for them.
What do you make of, I have a thought on this, but I'll go to you on this. What do you make of Jakeem Grant being first on the depth chart?
I think it's natural. The way that they built that depth chart, it kind of makes a lot of sense. He's in place of Will Fuller, right? So it's the X receiver that's just going to run a lot of straight 9 routes, and then you have Devontae Parker, and who's his backup is Preston Williams. So they have like a lot of redundancy. You know, they have depth, for lack of a better word. Waddle, who's his backup, Albert Wilson. So they're kind of clones of each other or lesser versions of each other. And Jakeem Grant is just actually stepping up into the role that Will Fuller was going to inhabit. So, you know, I don't make too much of it. I just think that it's kind of interesting that that's the way that they look at the receiver corps.
All right, defensively, Van Noy is gone. Lawson's gone. They made some changes there. We've talked about the secondary, but the front seven, is this a group in your view is going to be able to generate pressure?
Yes, and they'll create it if they can't generate it just, you know, out of wide rushes. But they added Adam Butler, Jalen Phillips. I think Andrew Van Ginkel is right in that sweet spot where guys usually take another step and become better players. And simply by their twists and stunts that they run inside, they're gonna create pressure. And a lot of people think, oh, but they have to blitz to get pressure. No, they don't have to blitz. Mm-hmm. This is not a bug; it's a feature. Brian Flores' defenses enjoy zero blitzes. They like using those exotic blitzes, those amoeba looks on third down. It's what they do. Their entire defense is predicated on trying to create a 3rd and 8 or better, and they got to get to 3rd and 8 or better. So if they stop the run on 1st and 2nd down, they're just going to bring pressures on 3rd down. It's what they do. They blitz.
Are they going to be able to stop the run?
That's the thing. Raekwon Davis now gets a full camp, full year under his belt. Adam Butler should help in that regard. Kristen Wilkins, in my opinion, I know some guys are, you know, they're down on him because they don't see Fletcher Cox, they don't see Aaron Donald. Let's face it, Aaron Donald is a once in a 50-year player. Okay, that's a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer. But Christian Wilkins, for where he was drafted, is exactly what you want. He's a guy that generates pressure by what he does to free up other people. I was talking to Juan on the Extra Yard, and I was telling him that if you looked at his tape from last year, you could almost point to 14 sacks that Christian Wilkins helped generate. Those matter. So I think they have enough up front to stop the run. It's going to be the most important thing that they do this coming Sunday. They stop the run. I find it extremely hard to see how they lose this coming Sunday.
All right, so let's talk about their opponent this coming Sunday, the Patriots, and then we'll, after the break here, we'll get into a little bit more about sort of where the Dolphins fit in the conference. But just in their division, I mean, the feeling is obviously that the Bills are the best team and the most well-rounded team, and have obviously he's more than an emerging star quarterback. He's a star at this point. But New England, like I don't know, to a certain degree, I know they were close and they were competitive last year, and they didn't have a lot of players because they took the COVID break and all the rest. But I feel like there's a little bit too much of a jumping back on the bandwagon here. When I look at that roster and the way that Bill is drafted in recent years, I don't know. I don't really see it. What am I missing?
You're not missing anything. Last night on the podcast, we did our season preview. Simon's extremely high on the Patriots. Chris Kaufman was eviscerated their entire roster piece by piece. He absolutely despises that roster. I'm somewhere in the middle, but there's certain ways you can look at this roster. Like, what do they have that is better than Miami's? Well, the offensive line is obvious, right? But who are their tackles? It's Isaiah Wynn, and it's Trent Brown. Those are two guys that, you know, for lack of a better word, have been chased out everywhere they've been. Isaiah Wynn has had an injury and missed out an entire season. And then if you go to their defensive front seven, their best defensive tackle is Devon Godchaux. That's a guy that they chased out of here. And if he were still here, he would be our 4th defensive tackle. So the guy we took from them is Adam Butler, who was their top defensive tackle last year, who is now our 4th defensive tackle. So it's simple. If you merge the rosters, it's hard to see where they're better than Miami at. And to top it all off, their best player is Stephon Gilmore. He's out for the first 6 weeks of the season. So it's all good news on the injury front. As roster-wise, Miami's better.
All right, we're going to talk about where Miami is in the conference here in a second. Before we do, we got a sponsor that we share here, Alfredo, Underdog Fantasy, and we've been telling people about it. and why you should play this. And you got to get in it now. The best ball competition is at about 90% right now. Draft a season-long best ball team, and that's it. Okay, so that's all you got to do. It's $25. Here's the thing about this: it's $25 to get in, but if you make the deposit today, they give you $25. They're giving you the money to play with. Use the promo code 5RSN. That's the promo code 5RSN. Go to underdogfantasy.com. Get in the best ball. Do it today. Okay, sign up. They've got the best ball. They've also got a puppy tournament that's about 80% full. That's $5. Okay, so if you want to play, it's got a little bit less, obviously, in terms of overall winnings, but you can play that one too. And they've got other stuff there on the site, including they got the player props, but including the draft. So basically, what you can do is you can bring your draft to Underdog Fantasy. Okay, so Alfredo, I think you're going to be challenging some of your listeners in there. Maybe I'll jump in there with you as well. So go to underdogfantasy.com. Use the code 5RSN. I see all these people on Twitter looking to join leagues. Join them there. They take care of everything for you. They'll tell you when your pick is up and all that good stuff. Okay, so go to underdogfantasy.com. They got standard scoring, so it's not complicated. And also, you can still play the best ball. All right, a couple of minutes left here with Alfredo. And again, we'll be arranging that draft. So overall in the AFC, I mean, you look at the depth of the conference right now. I mean, you've got clear powers in Buffalo and Kansas City, but you don't have a lot of dog teams. There don't seem to be. I mean, the Jets, right? The Bengals,
the Texans,
and the
Jaguars,
and the Jet. Right. So there's 4, but the other 11 teams, they all look competitive, right? I mean, we can argue. The Chargers, will they fix the defense? Again, the overall talent on the Patriots roster. But every team of that top 11 has something you like, okay? Mm-hmm. Whether it's Mike Tomlin coaching, and obviously the Steelers got off the great start last year, or Baltimore's, as always, the depth of their roster and Lamar Jackson. I have said the Dolphins could be better this year and miss the playoffs again.
It's always possible. But I don't think it's an option, not for this group. Okay. Like they're kind of required to make the playoffs. They're required to take a next step because they've all but said so. Right. This is the end of their rebuild. If you look at it, they've meticulously gone about filling every single hole that they themselves created in 2019, and they filled it with their guys through either free agency or through the draft. So yeah, they don't get many excuses. I guess if they win 11 games and they miss the playoffs, they could just point to bad luck. They could just say, look, we were just unlucky, but we won 11 games. Maybe. But other than that, if they go 10-7 and miss the playoffs, it's on them. And the season kind of has to be called a failure. But I completely agree with you. The top 12 in the conference, you can make a case for every single one of them. Denver, their defense. The Chargers, that offense, and Herbert. The Raiders, they have a good running game. So, you can make a case for even the fringe teams. The Colts, they have a great roster. If Carson Wentz is anything, they're good. The Titans are always good. So, you can go one by one and make a strong case for every single team, except for 4. There's 4 teams that last night on our season preview, we determined that there's 4 teams that just don't have any hope for this season. And that's the Jets, Texans, Jaguars, and I'm missing one, Bengals.
All right, and you can get all of this on 3 yards per carry. Before we close here, let me do some up downs with you this season. Tua, 3,500 passing yards, up down.
Over.
Myles Gaskin, 800 yards rushing.
Right on the number. I would say slightly over, but under 1,000.
Who leads this team in receiving yards?
That's a great question. Until I see somebody else step up, I think Devontae Parker's going to get all the big catches on third down. So Devontae Parker.
Jalen Phillips this year, 5 sacks.
More.
Okay, so you like him in the role they're going to use him in. You thinking
yes. I think they're being very coy with how they're going to use him, and I think they're just going to unleash him from one day to the next.
Xavier Howard, 5 picks.
Over. It's what he does. There's no evidence that he's going to get under. What's his worst season? 7. So yeah, he's going to get more than 5. It's not going to be one of those crazy 10 pick seasons, right. But 6, 6 feels like a good number.
All right, and the final one here, and you can bet this again at betus.com because this is the number. Dolphins 9.5.
Over, and if you listened to our show last night, Simon has them at 10. I have them at 11. And if you really want to feel good about yourself, listen to CK's prediction because Chris Kaufman says they're going to win 12 games this year.
They win 12 games. They may earn that parade. All right. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. You can follow Alfredo at alf_artiaga.com. You Break Wheel Fix. Check them out as well. And, of course, Underdog Fantasy. Get in those drafts. You got a little bit of time left. They're handing you $25. That code is right there.
Yeah, I got in yesterday. I did my own.
Louis Peters signed up yesterday, 20 minutes, and got the draft done. There you go. By the way, follow that guy, too. Go to lewispeters.com. For all of your insurance needs. All right. Have a good day. I'll be back tomorrow.